think Denmark has a good reputation around the world. It's a country with a good way of living, and people are happy living in Denmark. I know the weather. You mentioned the weather. The weather is not always good. It rains a lot, but actually we have a lot of sea, and we have a lot of beautiful fields, and the colors in Denmark are very beautiful. So the
Вие слушате подкаст Светофар. Младежкият подкаст, който ни радва с успешните истории, вдъхва увереност с уроците от грешките и ни запознава с интересни млади хора, които се стремят към развитие. Благодарим ви за подкрепата и ви пожелаваме приятно слушане. Здравейте и добре дошли в 19-ти епизод от трети сезон на подкаст Светофар. Епизодът, който предстои да чуете, е не по-малко специален и интересен от миналия. На гости ни е посланикът на Кралство Дания за Република България, негово превъзходителство Сьорен Якобсен. Както немалко от вас знаят, един от нас живее в Дания и през годините развихме силно уважение, но интерес към това как Дания се е превърнала в това, което е. Държавата рядко се намира извън челните 5 места на уважавани класации, сред които тези за качество на живот, удобство за създаване на бизнес и щастието на хората. Срещата с посланик Якобсен беше изключително ценна за нас, не само заради уважението, което изпитваме към институцията, но и заради възможността да научим някои от фундаментите на успеха на Дания от първо лице. В епизода се фокусираме основно върху инициативи и политики в полза на младите хора, които опитваме да съпоставим спрямо съществуващите такива в България. Успяхме да обсъдим и възможностите за образование, работа и развитие в бъдещето. Преди да чуете епизода, искаме да напомним, че подкаст Светофар е достъпен във всички популярни подкаст платформи, както и на българската ЕП043 TV. Ако този епизод ви хареса и искате да ни подкрепите, можете да го споделите с приятел, така че да ни помогнете да достигнем до повече хора. А сега ви оставям да чуете нашия разговор с негово превъзходителство Посланик Сьорен Якобсен. Welcome to the new episode of our podcast. Today, as you can tell from the language we're speaking, it's a slightly different episode, but we have a special guest. It's an honor for me and for Alex to welcome the ambassador of Kingdom of Denmark to Bulgaria, His Excellency Sьорен Якобсен. Hello.
Hello, and thank you very much for the invitation.
It's an honor. Alex, hello to you as well.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank His Excellency for taking the time and being open to the idea to make this interview possible. And I would just like to directly start with the questions, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
The first one is, what is your impression of Bulgaria?
Well, I've been in Bulgaria now for 4 years. This is my 5th posting. Before I've been posted to China twice. I've been in Turkey and I've also been in Afghanistan. And now I'm in Bulgaria. So in that sense, I would say Bulgaria is much closer to Denmark than some of the other posts I've been to. So in that sense, it's more similar. Bulgaria is an EU country. Bulgaria is a NATO country. So in that sense, there's a lot of common ground, so to say. But that said, of course, there's still a lot of differences between Denmark and Bulgaria. Denmark was also during the Cold War on the western side. Bulgaria was on the other side of the wall. And of course, that has some impacts in where the countries are right now politically, but also in a more, let's say, people-to-people way, and also in a cultural sense and an economic sense. So all these things is, of course, making Bulgaria a very, very interesting place to be. I like Bulgaria. I think it's a beautiful country. It's a very nice people being here. And I like the different challenges we have bilaterally, but also on the way the EU-Bulgaria works. And I like these different challenges, and I really appreciate it.
All right. Dennis, to you?
Yep, I would actually wanted to know what was the impression of the ambassador before coming to Bulgaria and right after, whether there were any, let's say, stereotypes that were broken once he came to visit Bulgaria or anything like that.
Well, one stereotype I would say was that I knew, of course, coming from Denmark, I was going to the Balkans, and coming from Denmark, you have a certain expectations of what the Balkans are. And I know there are, of course, differences between the Western Balkans and the full Balkans, but still the impression I might have before coming here was that Bulgaria would be very, very Balkan-like in the sense that I only understood it from Denmark and what I have heard. I would say in that sense, of course, Bulgaria is a Balkan country, but in many ways it's so much more. And I think that there's a lot of similarities in the sense, and I maybe got a little bit surprised that the similarities was so big in the sense that people were thinking and acting. I thought actually before coming that the difference would be bigger.
Mm-hmm. And another question that popped up also by other people that were interested in our talk with you was, what is the impression of other young people in Denmark about Bulgaria? Because us Bulgarian students in Denmark here, we're often faced with the answer whenever we say that we're from Bulgaria, that kind of is related to a TV show that was on Danish TV about a summer destination in Bulgaria. And we want to see how present is that stereotype, maybe.
Well, I would say that Sunny Beach, I think that's what you're referring to, is still a thing that Bulgaria is well known for in Denmark. And to be honest, last year during the COVID, I think 1 month during the summer, that was open for young Danish people coming to Sunny Beach. And that was a major thing in the Danish media because, I mean, these young people, of course, wanted to have a party, and some of them maybe drank a little bit too much. And it was a good story. But I think in Denmark, Bulgaria is known to more than that. That's something that Bulgaria is known for, but it's also more than that. I have 2 children. I have 3 children, but I have 2 older children. They're 25 and 22. They're also studying in Denmark. And of course, now they've been in Bulgaria, and I think the way they have reacted to Bulgaria has also been with some kind of surprise, because they also had the impression that Bulgaria would be much more different than it actually was.
We're glad to hear that. Before moving to some of the major topics, we would like to. We presented the table in the introductory email with some numbers that we believe at least would pose for a good context moving forward with some of the initiatives that Denmark is bringing in their own economy and system, especially for young people. So for our people listening, we chose, among other factors, the GDP per capita in purchasing power parity, basically what you can afford with the money you produce in the country. We also taken out the ease of doing business by World Bank, or a rule of law index, and the infrastructure and IT indexes, as well the quality of life. So in those indexes, we see that Denmark is on top, and it's often hard to see Denmark outside of the top 5, let's say. Would it be wrong to say that the main upside for Denmark in its development as such a strong economy, especially for its people, was mainly started, let's say, or strengthened right after the Second World War in the 50s and the 60s, when you develop your welfare state more proactively?
I think that's right, in the sense that after the Second World War, Denmark and Bulgaria kind of ended up on opposite sides. And in Denmark and then the Western Europe, of course, there was a lot of help from the Americans, the Marshall help and other things. And we in Denmark, for a very early time, decided that we wanted to have a system based on taxes, based on a social welfare system, based on a system where there's a very big trust between the government and the public as such. So over the years, I mean, we have developed this social model that we pay a quite substantial amount of our salary in taxes, but we also receive free healthcare, free education, free roads and things done, research universities and all these kind of things. So there is a kind of how to put a kind of contract, you can say, between the general public and the government as such. The government provides a lot of things. People pay their taxes and of course expect that the money they pay are used in a good and sustainable way. That's why rule of law is one of the key issues for us. We want to be absolutely sure that there's no corruption. When we pay our tax, we want to be absolutely sure that the money is spent for what the money is supposed to be spent for, and not for people enriching themselves. And I think that is very much linked to the whole idea of this social state we have. And then we have, in Denmark, we've just been good, I think, in the way that we try to encourage people to work hard, to do a lot, but also have a lot of saying in what they're doing. I mean, in Denmark, the way you talk to each other and the way you approach authorities also is based on trust, and it's based on that everybody has something to contribute, and nobody is, much better than other people. For instance, when I was in the military, I was in the military for 1 year back in 1989, and I was in the engineers, so we were building bridges. But I've been taught all my life when I was in school that you had to think for yourself, you had to do things. So when we were building the bridges, of course, the officers and the other people had to say, you have to do this the first time, but the second time and third time, we knew what to do. So when we were in competition with other military from other countries, from Germany or UK, Denmark always won because people were allowed to think themselves. And I think that has made a lot for the productivity in our workplaces, that people are allowed to think and contribute. So you don't wait to somebody to tell you have to do this. You do it yourself, and that does a lot on the productivity. And that's probably why we're also so high on these numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that the ambassador is mentioning that, because normally what people think is always the social aspect of Denmark and the strong society, while actually bringing this point about the individualism and the proactiveness on an individual level is a kind of a contrary point to that one, but it's an aspect that is nevertheless included. And since the ambassador also pointed out the importance of rule of law in Denmark, it's worthy to mention that according to the index that we took, Denmark actually ranks first for 2020, and Bulgaria ranks 53rd. So in that sense, there is definitely a big room for improvement there. Alex, would you like to take the stage with the next section that we had?
Yeah, the ambassador very well pointed out that there is a high culture of individualism, and from my perspective, which is an outsider looking in through the eyes of Dennis and through in this conversation your eyes, I've noticed that this culture of individualism and taking on responsibility is kind of instilled since very young age, since prior to the information that we found out, pointed out that in Denmark, a person can be of working age when they are just 13, like smaller tasks and lower paying jobs, but it's still a job. It's still paying money. And I would like to make a contrary point that in Bulgaria, a person has to be 16 years old to start doing any kind of work. And again, between 16 and 18, a person can work with some sort of restrictions in terms of hours and in terms that you have to have permissions. And I wanted to ask you if there are any side benefits aside from the culture of individualism and taking on responsibilities due to the fact that people start working at the age of 13, 14.
Well, when you say people start working from the age 13 and 14, what we are talking about are small jobs after school. I mean, it's not a full week or people going to the factories working hard physical labor. That's not what we are talking about. We're talking about when from you're 13, you're allowed to work 2 hours after school on school days and maximum 7 hours in the weekends. You can mainly maximum work 12 hours during the school weeks and 35 hours if it's a holiday weekend and something like that. And you're not allowed to work after 8 o'clock in the evening and before 6 o'clock in the morning. And there's a lot of restrictions of the kind of work that you can do. You cannot do work that is dangerous or exposed in one way or the other. So there are certain limitations to it. But I think you're right in the sense in Denmark we think that it's a good thing that young people earn their own money, pocket money. They can do that. Well, when I can't remember exactly when I started, but I think I started when I was 12 or 13. I worked with newspapers. It was after school. It was 45 minutes or 1 hour a day, and I earned my own pocket money then. I think that was a good introduction, that you also have responsibilities yourself to provide, that you don't get anything all the time. But I think it's important to stress that it's a supplement, because the most important thing is, of course, for young people to get an education and go to school and do what they can do. And there's also in Denmark been made some different investigations about how this works, and it actually shows that for people who had worked these limited number of hours from a younger age, they also perform better when they actually are going to have a real job after in education. So I think it has some good benefits. And for people, I think that they also normally find a big satisfaction in actually to say that I actually saved the money for my new bicycle or for my skateboard or whatever, and not only got it from my mother and father. So I think there's more sides to it. And in Bulgaria, it might be, or it's of course right that you have to be 16, but I'm sure that the Bulgarian children to a larger extent are helping out in the households. I mean, if you live in the countryside in Bulgaria, I'm sure that before you're 16, you also help out in the household and are doing things there and are introduced to work life in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Alex, if you allow me to quickly interrupt.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. One important also point that I think we can also mention here in this context is that it is true about Bulgaria that young people are involved in such responsibilities from young age. But I think there is, at least from my point of view, a really strong difference in the mechanism and how it works for supporting young children. Well, we see it more in Bulgaria as, let's say, we have to go through a bureaucracy burden in order to find a company that would be willing to go through the same in order to introduce a young person to a working environment. I've seen from similar websites for job postings, like one of the largest job websites in Denmark, for example, that a lot of supermarkets are specifically writing in the job ads that they're looking for someone under 18 years of age. And that was extremely interesting for me when I first came.
But I think that's probably also linked to that. It's also linked to how much money you're supposed to pay people, right? Because not old, but grown-ups in Denmark are going to a salary even without education are earning quite some money per hour. And if you have younger people, that they can do it cheaper, of course. But the responsibilities they have are, of course, also so less. But some of these burdens needs to be, or some of that work also needs to be done. So that's probably why.
Okay, and in terms of personal development, as we already spoke, that earning your own pocket money is kind of the first step towards fiscal responsibility or any type of responsibility for that matter. Dennis pointed out that when we were preparing for the interview that in Denmark there is a system of student benefits, and I would ask you if you would elaborate more on them, what they are, and how do they support the people of Denmark in their personal development in the future, growing up.
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, we pay quite a substantial amount of money in tax in Denmark on our income, and some of these money are spent on student benefits. The intention behind student benefits is that it should be possible for anybody to take an exam. It could be after high school, medium or a medium-term exam, or it could be a university, but it should be possible for everybody, no matter what the social status of the parents are. It should be possible for a person whose parents have no education whatsoever and might not earn that much money, also to be able to take an education at university. So the whole idea about social mobility and giving everybody a fair chance is the idea behind the student benefits. And as you know, Denmark is also an expensive country. So if you should take all the money as loans and pay it back afterwards, it would be quite substantial. So we believe in Denmark that it's a good idea to give everybody a chance to take an education. Then in Denmark, there's always ongoing discussions about if the benefits should be lowered or if they should be limited to the bachelor level. So you have to take a loan on the masters, but as it is now, you can have the student benefits also for your masters, and then I think we've been a little bit surprised in the sense that the social mobility has not been as great as we had hoped. We had hoped that more students from lower educated families would also take the longer education. It has not happened to that extent. And that's why there are these ongoing discussions about who should be able to have it at what level. But on the personal level, I think it's a great idea. I think it's good that everybody has a chance, and that when you are a student, of course, a lot of students beside the studying also have jobs, but you should not do that all the time. So you actually can focus on your studies.
Yes, of course. And is it correct that a young person in Denmark can also receive smaller, of course, student benefits, but before entering higher education as a bachelor student? Would it be wrong to assume that?
If you're above the age of 18, you can also get the educational grants in high school, actually.
Yeah.
But it's a smaller amount because you're living at home usually. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Yep. Then we would move to higher education, the one that is actually relevant for us and also the people who are listening us. We wanted to know, according to your impression, Ambassador, what makes Denmark a popular destination among international students or students like me, basically?
I think that Danish education has a good reputation in the sense. We still have quite a few educations also in English. So that's one benefit, of course. I think when you look at the Danish universities, the ranking of the Danish universities internationally, they're also performing pretty well. So that's, of course, also attractive. And then I just think Denmark has a good reputation around the world. It's a country with a good way of living, and people are happy living in Denmark. I know the weather. You mentioned the weather. The weather is not always good. It rains a lot, but actually we have a lot of sea. And we have a lot of beautiful fields, and the colors in Denmark are very beautiful. So the living conditions and the way of living is also very good. So I think that also benefit. And then since there's a number of international students, there's also an environment that make it attractive for people. And then I think quite a few probably also want to investigate the possibilities to stay in Denmark after studies and work, since Denmark has a good reputation in that sense, and it's possible also to have well-paid jobs afterwards and have a good living.
Definitely. On several occasions, you mentioned that the Danish people are paying a hefty amount in taxes, but in the same time, those money are invested back in resources as not resources, but in industries, let's say, like education and part of the government. Who is making that investment? Because of course, someone has to drive the motivation behind allocating such an amount of money towards education and making it so accessible for people.
I think in Denmark, most parties, being the left side or the right side, most parties, almost all parties, are strong supporters of the welfare state. Of course, there are differences between if you are a socialist party or if you are a more right-oriented party, where you put the exact, how you want it exactly. But the main feature and main understanding of the benefit of the social welfare system is the same. So basically in Denmark, everybody supports it. So I think there's a strong common understanding that this is the right way to do it. When things then go wrong, people in Denmark get very offended. We had some cases some years ago about some tax fraud, people taking money out of Denmark. It was quite a lot of money that was stolen, so to say, because of fraudulent practices, and people got very, very offended on that. And that's because we have a saying in Denmark that I pay my taxes with happiness, and that's said in the sense that, of course, I would like to pay taxes because I also receive a lot of things back, but I want to pay it with happiness because I also expect everybody else to do it. So as long as there's a very big trust in the system and everybody believes that everybody pays what they have to pay, there's a support for the system. And I think most parties also agree that the people earning the most money, of course, also should pay the more in taxes. And I think there's a general understanding of that. Of course, the difference in the marginals, but it's more on that level.
Yeah, and some of the resources that are coming back to students are, as we said earlier, in the form of student benefits. And we wanted to point out, because we saw it as a very important aspect of that Denmark is choosing to allocate resources back to students in higher education, not based on their performance in GPA. Of course, there is the requirement to pass your exams at a certain time, but they do it based on living situation. Why do you think that is the case?
I think it's linked back to what I said before, that we want to have the social mobility. So we want to make sure that it's possible for everybody to make the studies. And in Denmark, of course, we want everybody to do as much as they can and be as clever as possible. But in Denmark, we also believe very much in the process. We actually think that if you have a higher education from a university, you might get 12s or A's all along, and then of course you're very good. But if you get C's or 7s, you can still contribute very much when you're finished. So if you're along the way already, take people away that are maybe not the top performers, we don't think that create the right intent to study. If you have to focus 100% on your grades alone, it take out some of the creativity that is also needed. And some of our former ministers and also the current ones say that you learn by your mistakes. You should be able to make mistakes and learn from them. And if every time you just do one mistake, then you're just out. We don't think that's the best way to achieve the best results. Other countries, a lot of countries in Asia, for instance, are very, very much focused on these very, very high performing numbers. And but we think it's a combination. Of course, you have to expect a lot of things from people, and they have to deliver. but there should also be room for making the mistakes, and there should be room for the social mobility as well.
Before giving the microphone back to Alex, I also wanted to mention that the fact that such an emphasis is put on the processes Denmark is also apparent from the way the process is structured, one may say. Because unlike other countries, in Denmark, the education is somewhat simplified in the sense that the education process is not mandatory for students to attend, so they do not worry about missing out on some of the obligations at school if something happens. And then you have one final exam at the end of the semester or at the end of the course, which definitely sounds oversimplified, but I would say it works for us students.
Yeah.
And like a big problem for Bulgarian business here is that one that they complain a lot, with or without reason. I'm not the one to clarify that. I'm just stating that the problem that businesses face here is that they have underqualified people coming out of university. And I'm saying that to bridge to the question that in Denmark, again, through Dennis's eyes, I've come to know that since you start in university, you're able to find a proper student job according to what you study. Something that is also possible here, but it's not as extended and it's not as rigorous as in Denmark. And I would really like if you could comment briefly on that matter about the benefits for students and for the companies as well.
For instance, here at the embassy, I have two interns. They are university students in Denmark. They're here for 6 months. And every 6 months, we change them. So we have two news every 6 months. That's at the embassy here in Bulgaria, but that's all the Danish embassies doing that. So we think that they learn a lot by being here. And of course, we get some help from them being here. But it's a two-way street in the sense they help us and we help them to learn and get experience for how it is to be at a workplace. And that's how it works a lot in Denmark. When I was back in the ministry in Copenhagen, we have students work there as well. They get a hourly salary. But still, it's part of their study that they work and they get experience 15 or 18 hours per week. And a lot of bigger Danish companies, they also have internships and take people in. And of course, it has different benefits. When you have a lot of people through, for instance, in here with our interns, we just hired, I think, 60 new people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. A lot of them have been interns around the world, so we already knew them. We knew what they were capable of. So it's also a way of looking for talent, so to say. And it's the same for the businesses. They're doing it the same way. So I think it's a two-way street where there are benefits for both. We get something with the help, and they get experience that they can use in the applications later on.
And also that specifically in Denmark, not in the embassies, because like I get that in the embassies, it probably is a little bit more complicated. But I've also come to know that the system is structured in such a way that to accommodate the studying as well. It's not that the student job requires you to work such hours that you don't have time for rest or for studying or for social life. Like, of course, one can balance it, and one must balance everything. But again, the system of the student job is not structured in a way that is interrupting the other aspects of your life. And I would also like to just briefly, if you can answer, is this available? Like, are student jobs available to students from the very first year they apply in university and they start studying? Or you have to be second or third year? Because like here is a requirement during our bachelors, which are usually 4 years, you have to be at least in your third year to start working in the industries.
I would say normally the student jobs is 15 hours per week. And if you have to work as a student employee in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you have to be you have to have your bachelor and be on your master's program, and that also accounts for the people we have here at the embassy. They need to have finished their bachelor, and I think that's for most places in the state that's the requirement. But of course, you can have other employments also early on, but you cannot start as a student intern on first or second or third year.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. And again, on the topic of university education, another problem that we face often here in most recent years is that we have more seats available, like more enrollments available, that people that are willing to enroll. And do you think that, have you noticed such a problem in Denmark? If, regardless of the answer, I want to hear your opinion about the implication of this situation that we have here on the quality of education.
Right. If I start with the numbers first, in Denmark, I would say of course, there is a kind of, so some educations are much more attractive than others in people's mind. So a lot of people are seeking these education. So it requires a pretty high mark to get it. Other educations, it's difficult to get people enough. And in Denmark, for instance, in 10 or 20 years from now, we will not have enough teachers for primary school. We will not have enough people for kindergartens. We will not have enough people for hospitals, nurses, and people with mainly 3 years education. There will be a lack of people also taking educations for vocational kind of educations like a carpenter and all these kind of educations. We will have a lack of people wanting to have these jobs. But there's quite a lot of people who wants to go to universities, mainly in the bigger cities. The Danish government is as of right now, discussing that they want to create 25 new educations that should be located out of the 4 bigger cities. So in also major cities, but not the 4 biggest cities. The idea is to make an education for instance, a school teacher in Holstebro or something like that, where people live, so they don't have to move to go to study. And the hope is that by decentralize some of the education, it will be possible to attract more people to seek them. And then every year there are some educations that are so popular that 10 times the amount of places are sought. But yeah, so it differs out there. And you also asked about the qualifications and education. I mean, I can see in Bulgaria, of course, that the Sofia University, for instance, they increased their ranking this year on where the university was, and I think that's a good thing for attracting young Bulgarians actually to study in Bulgaria and not necessarily to go abroad. But you can also see that the quality of education is, of course, extremely important. And it goes at all levels, also on primary level and secondary level, that you probably need to enhance that in order to attract more people to stay in Bulgaria.
Okay, Dennis, I give the floor to you.
Yep. In the last section of our talk, we wanted to cover first some of the aspects of moving from your academic life to a more life of a full-time worker, but also some that may seem like trivial solutions for the public, but we would get to that a bit later. So we already mentioned the fact that young people are involved in work during their education in order to, let's say, enhance their abilities in the industries that are relevant for their studies, but also in one way to find opportunities for future employment after graduation. Would you say that there is anything that we're missing in terms of the bridge between academic life and, let's say, entering full-time employment post that?
In Denmark or in Bulgaria?
In Denmark, of course.
Well, I think for everybody who is finished studying and start a full-time job, it's a very, very hard transition. I mean, maybe you have had a job as a student intern before you start working, but if you come with a university degree, you start in a new job, there will be a lot of expectations to you. And I think that's hard on everybody. When you study at university, I mean, you don't go to the university 37 hours a week. I mean, you go less hours, and then you're very flexible in the planning of your time. A lot of that flexibility is taken away when you start on a full-time job. A lot of people will actually also at that time when you in the university also be the time when you start to have kids. You have small kids, so you have to balance maybe 2 full-time jobs, taking kids to kindergarten and all that. So I think it's a pretty hard way of waking up for everybody when you go from university to full-time work. If you could do that better, I'm not sure. I mean, I think that's a fact of life, and of course, workplaces need to be good to enroll and to make new workers, employees feel at ease at the new work and also attracted there. But I think all big companies and also the state institutions, they are really competing to get the best persons. And that, of course, give the persons also some kind of leverage to say that, okay, I would like to do that, but it also requires that I be able to go on early enough to pick up my kids from kindergarten. So again, it's also a two-way street, I think.
Things as little as those opportunities, of course. There is also a mechanism in place, let's say, about supporting a student after education until they find a full-time job. As far as I know, there is a sort of support that would, let's say, financially support you by the time you find a proper full-time job that is relevant for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you end education, either a bachelor or a master's, you can sign up for benefits. Then you pay every month an amount, and then you can also receive. So if you are unemployed for 6 months or 1 year, you will get benefits from the state. But it's kind of a insurance thing, because you pay. I pay every month. I pay to this insurance. I've never used it, so I have been a prepayer, so to say. And then people who are unemployed, they can receive money from that fund. So it's not that your student benefit stops and then you have no money whatsoever. The trick is that the student benefits you get 1 month before, and the other money you get 1 month behind. So there's 1 month like it's always hard, but I mean it's in the small department. And then I will say most people in Denmark are also members of a union, and the union can be very helpful in providing courses and good ideas how to apply for jobs and try to help the newly educated to enter into the workplace.
And as a final note, almost before we say goodbye, we wanted to bring a few digital solutions that Denmark has in place for their citizens. And as Bulgarians sometimes know, dealing with government institutions in Bulgaria can be time-consuming at times. So we keep asking ourselves, how difficult can it be to implement such digital solutions for the society, apart from the intention only to have it?
Well, I would say we have some pretty smart solutions in Denmark. For instance, now in the COVID times, every time I want to take a test, I simply log in with my personal identification number and codes. Then I can order it directly. Also, when we're going to have the vaccine, so you can also log in, do it like that. If I want to see how much I paid in taxes, or if I want to change what the tax authorities know about me, I also log in, and then I can do the changes, and then they know it's me who's doing it. So that is working well. All the information we get from the state is also sent to us in a secure way. So for most people, it works very well. Of course, there are challenges with people who are old or people who are getting different diseases. So it's difficult for them to know how to do it. But then you find other solutions. But I also have to say that we are not 100% exceptional in doing technical institutes. We also have problems with new IT systems in our tax authorities and all these kind of things. So just to say that it's not easy peasy. There's also things that could be done better in Denmark.
Yeah, of course. I think one of the most impressive solutions for me coming to Denmark was the so-called Easy ID for people that can log in all governmental systems. Also in basically private company systems like their bank and things like that, which was a solution that I didn't know is possible, and I didn't know is as needed as it seemed after seeing it.
Yeah, but it's pretty smart, actually. The thing with the bank is pretty smart. Just 5 years ago, when you had the code, then they sent you a piece of paper, and then they said that you had to put in, then they put a number, for instance, 567. Then I had to look at my piece of paper, 567, then I had to enter my number. But now that is digital also. Yeah, but now this is digital also. And when you have a smartphone, new phone, you can actually just do it with your thumbprint or whatever. So it's pretty smart.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes as far as even securing your transactions when you shop online. Actually, now you get every single time you get a notification that you have to basically use this digital signature in a way.
And it's also smart for the tax. For instance, if you invest in shares and stuff like that, if you do it, then you also have to log in. And then if you earn money on that, it will go directly to the tax authorities, so they know how to tax you. So it's very easy and smart.
Perfect. Makes it definitely easy for everyone. Okay. At the end of the episode, we would like to invite you, Ambassador, to ask us a question on something that you're interested about young people in Bulgaria, maybe, or if that is not the case, or you cannot think of anything straight away, then maybe direct people that are listening to the page of the embassy where they can find more about your initiatives in Bulgaria.
Yeah, thank you very much. I actually have one question to you. When you are in Bulgaria, you very quickly realize that one of the biggest problems for Bulgaria is this demographic problem, that young people are leaving and people working, not only studying, but also for work are leaving. So what are the considerations when young people leave? I mean, do they think that they are doing something good for themselves only, or also for the country because they earn more money, can send money back? Or are somebody thinking that they are not helping the country since they should maybe stay back in Bulgaria and help to rebuild Bulgaria?
Alex, would you like to start? Because maybe my answer would be a bit longer.
I think that there are two different perspectives to answer this question when a person is leaving, because we are two different perspectives of the question. Like Dennis left for his reasons on which he's going to explain in a bit. But for me, I left back in 2016 for higher education in Belgium. I somewhat completed it, and then I came back with my family back to Bulgaria. When we were leaving, the considerations were, okay, like we have this chance of you getting a higher education in a good country, a well-developed country that maybe if you like it, you can stay and live there and have higher income, have a higher standard of living, because like just the economical differences. And this was kind of like, I would think of it that I'm giving it as an example, as a type of selfish reason, because like a lot of people leave in order for themselves to have better lives economically, and also like as an extension to that, to have like the ability to support their families that are left here, like elderly people that stay here and are somewhat left behind. But there is also another type of people that leave with the aim to, okay, I'm going to study abroad and get higher education in a well-developed country, and then I'm going to come back here and apply the knowledge, or I'm going to find a way to apply the knowledge that I've gotten abroad, that I've gotten in a very high-level institution, and apply it here to make everyone's lives better. I think that, to me, those are the two main perspectives on people leaving. Dennis, you might have a different answer.
No, I mean, I'm kind of in between the two options. To say it straight, I do have a pretty well established in my mind plan about what I want to do. And I came to Denmark a few years ago for my higher education, almost with butterflies in my stomach, because I definitely felt like the environment in terms of social environment, but also the study environment would be one of the best for me in the world, pretty much. And I really enjoy my time here. So definitely the dilemma comes often whether or not I'm going to go back to Bulgaria at some point or not. But to be completely honest, at least as of now, I do see Denmark as the better opportunity for me. In the context of establishing my career after education, but also in the context of, in one way, setting a family here. I live with my girlfriend. She's from Bulgaria as well. So we moved together. Now she's also studying in Denmark as well. And if we talk together, we would definitely see Denmark as the better place for us to start our family, basically. But that doesn't close the door for Bulgaria. I think just the problem there is that despite the big problems that we're facing with the demographics, economy, and the prospect for the country in the future, I still don't feel enough empowerment, let's say, to know that if I come back, it would not only be a good decision for my country, but I would also be able to put my knowledge into practice in order to support that. So it is a bit of a sad conclusion in a way to the situation, but it's just the way it is. Hopefully in the future it changes in a way that is easier for young people to see the change and be part of the change. And I think for some people, that's not my case, but thanks to the mobility and the fact that I have a direct flight to Sofia, it's 3 hours away, I can easily see my parents and so on. I don't feel as homesick as other people. And that actually works in my advantage, at least.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Yep, at the end of each episode, we do it in Bulgaria, but I'm sure you know that word, of course. Each of us says ciao, just as a ciao, basically. Yeah, okay, so ciao from me.
Ciao from me.
Ciao from me.
Благодарим ви, че останахте до края на епизода. Ако епизодът ви е харесал, ще се радваме да го споделите с приятел или да се абонирате в предпочитаната от вас платформа. Може да ни подкрепите, като ни оставите отзив на нашия уебсайт svetofar.bg или в Apple Podcasts. Връщаме се следващия вторник с нов епизод, а до тогава на svetofar.bg може да намерите всички предишни наши епизоди.